Welcome to Second Take, the show that takes a look at the issues behind the news. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer joins me today to unpack the latest news in the mining industry. Hi Martin.
Hi Chanel.
Mine development company Orion Minerals has achieved a vital funding milestone.
Yes, I'm very pleased with the way the funding is arising for Orion Minerals. You know, they've been so good in reviving the copper and the zinc activities in the Northern Cape, which is so prospective. And the fact that they've now got this 250 million from the Industrial Development Corporation shows you that, you know, South Africa Incorporated is wanting to get ahead with this. And that is a convertible loan, so it could convert to about 16% shareholding for the IDC, which will be quite a nice substantial shareholding. And it funds the shareholding of the community as well as they go through. But the big thing is it looks like this will kickstart an earlier revival of what was Angloval's own activities down there. There were copper activities, zinc activities, which were closed down because market changed in the 90s. And this will be the revival with the dewatering process. That has been the holding back. That was that is why shareholders have been reluctant to sort of come forward faster. Now this will take place, and while the dewatering is taking place, they'll start mining. And of course, every time you start mining, you're creating wealth. And so it will also help to fund the operation going forward, which is linked to a lot of other activities in the Northern Cape. You know, there's the OKeep, where IDC is also involved with funding. There are other activities which bring in a whole supply of new metals and battery metals. That could spark a lot of economic activity in the Northern Cape, which will be great.
An official from the Department of Science and Innovation has suggested that South Africa should include green hydrogen in its economic recovery plan.
You know, we've got this official economic reconstruction and the recovery plan. And what, you know, the officials and the scientists from the Department of Science and Innovation are saying is include green hydrogen development in that official structure. Because they report that, you know, the United Nations is coming through to them, asking them to include green hydrogen officially in structures. We can see the whole world saying, you know, this could be the answer to a maiden's prayer, because it gives you energy independence around the world. You're relying on the sun and the wind and water, and that is normally accessible anywhere in the world. So it means that you don't have this dependence on small little suppliers or big suppliers of oil and gas, but from a small geographic basis. And then you become very reliant on them. And we've seen now with the conflict in Ukraine how terribly disruptive this can be for the world. Instead, you go for sovereignty. You go for energy sovereignty. And I think that's why they want this, but also they see it as being a huge opportunity to not only create wealth, but to create a lot of employment. So hopefully this will be brought into the cabinet, which they said should happen in a few weeks, and formalized as a structure where we go along and we build this green hydrogen economy with the support of renewable energy. Our great African sun, we've got prime wind, you know, let's do it. That's what they're saying.
Lastly, tell us about US green hydrogen company Plug's platinum using solutions.
You know, this is fantastic that Plug have really plugged away, and excuse the pun, to get ahead. You know, over a long period of time, they're pioneers that began with fuel cells that were powering forklift trucks, and they've moved steadily into, you know, electrolyzers, producing hydrogen from electrolyzers, transporting the green hydrogen around the country, making sure all their customers have got green hydrogen, building up an ecosystem, you know, quite rapidly. And now looking to the situation where the calculations being done by analysts that this could be a massive industry. They're talking about, you know, $10 trillion a year. And, you know, he repeated that as he said, I'm not the Plug CEO. He said, I'm not saying it myself. This is what Goldman Sachs is saying. This is what Bloomberg is saying, that this could be a $10 trillion a year industry. So that is a massive industry, and that's just the United States. So if you look at what could happen in Europe, we can see what's happening in China. Korea is very firmly behind this. Australia is moving onto it. We are seeing the value of it. North African countries are seeing the value. It is something that we glad these early pioneers, have done the hard yards, and they're now getting to a point where they said that on certain sectors of their business they're going to break even. And not only that, but with Biden coming through, with new incentives and new legislation, they're saying instead of us having to fund this with 100% of equity capital, we can now change to what has happened already in the renewable energy business, the solar business and the wind business, where, you can get debt to a point where your equity represents only 20%. So you can do, 5 times more than you're doing. And that's what they're looking to. And they're also seeing it as a possibility of stabilizing the electricity grid because of the huge potential of storing electricity in the form of green hydrogen. And at the same time, you're protecting the planet. Everything you're doing is correct. So it's gaining momentum, but I wish it would gain momentum even faster because, you know that the situation in Ukraine has spurted this on. But at the same time, it's slowed it down because in order to get energy today, they've got to go back to coal and they've got to but hopefully it's just temporary and we'll see this take over in time.
Thank you, Martin.
It's a great pleasure.
That's the Second Take show for this week. Thank you for watching and join us again next time for more mining industry highlights.